All right. So we're going to talk about, what I like to call unapologetic pricing, because I find most clients that we work with are like, they're like, I'm sorry, we got to charge this. No, you provide value. Okay. You deserve to get paid what you're worth. All right. So I want you to start with the mindset shift of, you know, your pricing is justified. You deserve to be compensated for what you're doing. You are doing a wonderful service to take such good care of these dogs, people's family members. All right. So it's all about unapologetic pricing. You don't never going to apologize for what you're charging. What I find a lot of pet businesses are doing is that when they're trying to figure out their pricing, they're just like, well, I'll just see what my competitors are doing, and I'm going to do something similar. Or like the worst thing to do is, okay, here's what my competitor's doing. I'm just going to go just under them. Um, okay, that if you make your service as a commodity, it's basically the cheapest one who's going to win there. And that is what they call the race to the bottom. All right, we don't want to do that. All right, and if you start to think like that, you're more you're pricing based on fear of I have to price it this way because I don't want to lose clients. Like that's not a good mindset to set your pricing. Your pricing is like, I'm going to price it this way because this is what it's worth. This is the value of it. Okay. And taking into account a lot of different things. So, we also have to make sure you're understanding all the costs that come with everything. All right. And we're going to talk about, I think either we'll eventually talk about some dynamic pricing and stuff, which I think we touched upon a little bit the last call we had. But like, you might have to pay people more to be there on Christmas than on the day before, the week before Christmas or whatever. So yeah, your prices should be higher to compensate for that. Your costs are more, so the service should cost more, right? So these are all the things you want to take into account as you're kind of trying to figure out, okay, what is our pricing going to be? How are we going to create our pricing? Um, and you know what? Uh, like what you usually, the outward is what your services are, the perception of it. Like, okay, for daycare, our price is this is what we're going to charge because we're going to watch your dog for the day. Right? Again, that's commodity right there. That's the lowest price will win that. But it's not about that. It's about the value. Okay. What justifies you charging more? Definitely, it could be maybe it's your group sizes. All right. Maybe you do small group instead of big group. How many staff do you have per dog? What kind of safety protocols or even training do you have? And then maybe you have a little higher end facility with maybe you've got a big, expensive, high end air filtration system. Okay. That is valuable, but it's not just watching dogs. Okay. There's that safety, like, so if you've got this really cool air purifier that keeps dogs safer and limits the spread of disease and stuff, if you just price based on what the service is, okay, we're gonna watch your dogs for the day. It doesn't take that into account. So the true value and how you're determining your pricing is not on the service itself, but it is all the value that's baked into that. And again, that's usually the what's not the tip of the iceberg, what's not visible, you know, in the to the immediately. It's all the other stuff that's underneath there. So that's what you're looking for. And you want to make sure when you're doing marketing and promotion, you're marketing all those benefits that are not seen initially by viewers or customers. Okay? They don't know you've invested in all this training. They don't know that you have smaller group sizes than all these other places. They don't know you've invested in this incredible air purification system unless you tell them. And it's very easy for them to see on your branding, on your website, on your marketing materials. All right. If you want to charge what you're worth, because all those things come at a cost, we need to make sure that wherever your pricing is, it's showcasing all those things to justify whatever the price is. Remember, I always say if someone doesn't want to pay your price, it just means they don't understand why it's worth it. They don't know the value. So your job is always to make them see the value. It should be crystal clear. All right, so we're reframing it. All right, you're never positioning in the commodity, which is we'll watch your dog all day while you're at work. You're never going to get people to do that. You reframe it from, and we're getting better with the enrichment training stuff we talked about the benefits and why this is important to your dog. So they're not just sitting on the couch, but the safety that they have and this safety is becoming more and more a thing as you see other lazy and maybe less than good organizations having stuff happen to them, accidents, and accidents will happen, but a lot of it accidents because of negligence. As you see that, what it makes is it makes the customers more wary. So it's even more important to kind of gain their trust by showing how safe you guys are, all the protocols you have in place. And if you do that, the customers will have peace of mind. And if they have peace of mind, they're going to feel comfortable sending their dogs to you. So I think that's a good thing to always kind of think about it. And what you should charge, most people I find are probably not charging what they're really worth. And again, because you're fearful that you're going to lose all your clients and stuff. Again, I'm not telling you to raise your prices indiscriminately. I do not think that every market can charge premium prices. I think it's I think most people are probably undervaluing their services. However, it's very important that you really know your marketplace well. Okay. Um, know exactly the kind of customers that you have. What are their demographics? What are their fears? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? And that'll help you understand what kind of pricing model. And this is where it's very dangerous to just see what other people are doing and mimic what they're doing with their pricing because they are a different business, probably in a different area, serving different people. So you can't just copy and paste their pricing strategy into your business, into your market. All right. I think that could be a recipe for disaster. So it comes first by having very good awareness of your market and your own brand and what you want to do. I think that's very important. But I find often we're a little bit just too nervous about, should we, about raising those prices. And don't forget, you need to be consistently raising your prices because as you are painfully aware of, costs go up every year. It's not like costs ever go down. Okay? You're guaranteed that your costs will always keep rising. And if you don't keep rising your prices with that, you will be out of business really soon. So no matter what, you need to consistently, now that doesn't mean it's necessarily yearly or every 2 years or every 6 months. It's going to be different for every business, but you need to follow the way the economy is going and the trends, and also being aware. So we're in a little bit of a tough economy right now in the United States. There's a little kind of unrest at the moment. So it might not be, even if you're due for a price increase, maybe this instability might not be the best time to do it. So you have to pick your timing of how you do price increases as well. I think that's also very important because if you time it well, it can go really well, and you get a lot of pushback if it's timed poorly. So definitely know your market, know your brand, and don't just copy other businesses and other markets because it may not be, kind of comparing apples to apples. So again, if you want to charge more, and I think the premium market is great for a lot of businesses, not for every business. Again, knowing your market, but how do you create a premium? Like you can create a premium experience and get people to pay you more without changing your physical appearance at all if you want to, by changing things like, again, you have to make sure it's communicated to the customers and they understand it and they know that this stuff is happening and they know the value of it is definitely, yeah, your group sizes, your staff to, human to dog ratios, how clean your cleaning, facilities, training for your staff, whether you do things like enrichment and training, again, that positions you a lot differently than just large group all day play. Um, and the bonuses that you do, whether it's report cards or pictures, all these things, you can create a premium experience and charge more by doing all of these things and never need to have, this flashy state of the art facility and stuff, all that stuff, can be nice, but I think if you have this like big, expensive looking resort, but you lack all of this other value that's in baked in your services, I think you won't have long-term customers. I think it'll be short-lived. All right. So I think it's important to think about how do we take care of the customers. But again, your marketing and everything you do, you have to communicate this stuff. They don't know, they don't get to see behind the lobby. So they don't get to see all this stuff. Okay. We need to make sure we're explaining it and it's in everything repeatedly so that they really get a good sense on, why you guys are worth more than others. So, you have like, list value, price matching, and then like you market the particular value. Again, you're not like focusing on price, you're focusing on value. All right. Instead of we just do daycare for 35 bucks, okay, that is listing a price. Again, you're going to commodity there. Instead, we do structured enrichment daycare with highly trained staff members. That's what I market. Okay. That's different than just daycare for 35. Again, it's more of a mindset and how we're explaining the service to the customer base. If this is where I think, shifting more to this training and enrichment type of model, where it's a little bit more of a curriculum based stuff. And that's why I really kind of employ you guys to make a lot of kind of, your verbiage and stuff almost like a school. Like, we have classes, there's a curriculum there that has way more perceived value. And you can charge more for that. So I think that's how you can position yourself and really kind of justify whatever you want to charge. So, thing is, you have to, again, it all comes down to being self-aware of you and your business and decide what you want. Okay. You can't be a low priced option and also premium. Okay. Because like premium is like a buzzword now. Everyone's like, yeah, we got to go premium, go premium. But that's not necessarily the right thing for every business. Okay. I always say that's great for like Nordstrom. Um, but that would be a horrible option for Walmart. Okay. Walmart, if they tried to go premium, they would destroy their entire business model and probably go out of business. But they know exactly the business they have and the people they're trying to serve. And just because, you know, it's tempting because other people are doing premium and they're saying premium, they know that they got to figure out what is their business model, what is their ideal customers. Okay. And there's no right or wrong here. Okay. They're both viable options for a successful business. You just need to figure out what you want, but you can't be a cost effective, budget friendly option and a premium option. Even though you may have, three boarding suites and you have, three different prices and one of them is premium, they're still going to be in the range of what your average client can afford. All right. So you just really have to make sure you understand your business, understand the market, and then pick what you want your business to do. But you can't serve everybody. And I think if you try to serve everybody, you serve no one and you dilute your brand's message. So you just got to pick what's right for you. So I go back to me as a dog trainer. I decided my target market was upper middle class families. Like that was my avatar. And if people in lower income areas, unfortunately, they couldn't afford me. And that was okay. I decided my services were not in line to really serve them best. Also, really affluent, like crazy rich people, they were not my ideal client too. I didn't want them, and I turned them away too. That wasn't where I was going to be my sweet spot. My sweet spot was upper middle class families. I focused on that. Now, I did have other clients that fit outside that, but I knew my brand. And as soon as I did that, as soon as I recognized that and focused on that, that's where my business really got good. That's where I started to really make a name for myself and had a lot of word of mouth going and stuff because I knew exactly who I wanted to serve, and my business reflected the needs of those people. So just kind of think of that. So looking at the trend in the industry, the good news is the pet industry always goes up. So we're in a great industry. No matter what happens, it keeps going up. If you go Google or ask your AI to tell you about the pet industry over the last 10 years, and you will see it keeps going up. And the reason is, you know, pets are becoming more and more like family members, not possessions. And they're getting more ingrained into our life every time. And owners are willing to spend more money on their pets than ever before. All right. So now there are becoming a demand for a higher level of care. All right. What used to be, like I always say, like it used to be like kennels, like if you think of a traditional kennel where we just almost look like a shelter, that used to be the norm. Now customers are demanding way more than that. And anybody who's still stuck in that business model will never survive because the demand of the customers has changed. And now we want more. And it's going to continue. We're going to continue to want more. So if you want to be able to be a successful business and you want to be able to charge more, you just have to make sure you're, again, showing the value. Okay. The way you can do this, number one, is try to simplify things. I'm amazed at how many I look at a website and they'll have, I can't even figure out. They have so many options, this giant a la carte menu of enrichment activities and stuff. The more complicated you make it, I think the harder it is. And also, I don't like these giant a la carte services where someone has to pick between 20 different enrichment activities. I don't think that's going to work. I would do bundles instead. It's very simple. And yeah, the language you use is very better. I mean, it's very better. That's not good language. The language you use affects how people perceive things. So, you call it a kennel, they're going to treat it like a kennel. You call it a suite, they're going to treat it like a suite. So try to, they say 3 to 5, your core options and stuff. And then you're clear, the way you name it. I just had a whole conversation, Ashley and Casey and I had a whole conversation with a client talking about how to name their services. They wanted to, get people to take these different services and instead of just making it a commodity, like this was for walking, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or an hour or 2 hours, we name it something unique, and that'll create more value. So that's it. Definitely, if you want to have unapologetic pricing, you want to define your value completely. Keep it simple, and then if you are going to have premium, you position it as just that. Okay, and are your prices truly aligned with your brand? Okay, the place that you've built and the peace of mind you want to provide to your customer base. You need to have alignment in your pricing and your brand and your messaging. I think that's all very important.